Well, hello again, and welcome to Englishing. I'm Mark, your English mentor. Today we'll explore how to use direct and indirect speech to make your English sound natural and precise. So let's get started. For our learning objectives, by the end of this lesson, you will understand the differences between direct and indirect speech. You'll apply conversion rules for tense pronouns and time expressions. You'll also practice reporting statements, questions, and commands, and ultimately sound more fluent in both spoken and written English. So first off, what's direct speech? So here we have a conversation between two people. So let's listen to them.
Would you like a candy?
I'm okay, thanks.
So direct speech quotes the exact words spoken. Notice Sarah's exact question in quotation marks, and then his direct reply. This preserves the speaker's original words and punctuation. The quotation marks is a characteristic of direct speech. So how about indirect speech then? Indirect speech, also called reported speech, conveys the meaning without quoting exactly. Here, Sarah's words become, she asked if he would have liked a candy, shifting pronouns and tense. So we notice three key changes when reporting. So when you convert direct into indirect speech, remember three key changes again. First, tense shift. So tense shift usually one step back. For example, present becomes past, right? Second, pronouns change to match the new perspective. So it could be, for example, if I'm talking about me, I, me, mine. You can report what I said with using he, his, him. If we are reporting what we say, we are us, then somebody else would talk about us using they, their, theirs, and so on. Then the third is the time and place words adjust. So today becomes that day, tomorrow becomes the next day, yesterday the day before, and now becomes then. Here we have a quick comparison. I asked ChatGPT to give me a table to see the differences. Well, ChatGPT noticed that quotation marks are the most important points of difference, right? So direct speech is always used. You need to use quotation marks in direct speech. In indirect speech, they're not used, quotation marks, right? Tense. Obviously, tense, like I said before, it shifts one tense back in indirect speech. Obviously, in direct speech, it stays the same if it's present, past, and future. And one student asked me, how about if the sentence is past? Well, then one tense back would be using the past perfect, right? Will would change to would. We'll have some examples of that. Like I said also before, pronouns. The direct speech reflect original speaker's words, obviously. Indirect speech, they are adjusted to fit the reporting speaker's perspective. Time and place words, like I said before, in direct speech, obviously they stay the same, but in indirect speech, they often change, like today becomes that day, etc., what I mentioned before. What I want you to pay attention here is the reporting verbs. So the common ones, said, she said, he said, asked, or told. In indirect speech, we use the same verbs as in indirect speech, but followed by that, if, or to, depending on each case. So we have questions and commands. Here in direct speech they are quoted directly, but in indirect speech they are rephrased with word order changes or to plus verb. Let's look at the examples that I have here. So for direct speech, she said, I'm tired. Notice the quotation marks. In indirect speech, she said that she was tired. Here, what you need to notice is the pronouns and the tense. Okay, it shifts one tense back. Now we have a question like, where do you live? He asked. So for indirect, he asked where I lived. Okay, so here we need to notice the shift of pronouns and tense. Tense goes back. And one other thing, the word order. Because in indirect speech is not a question, we put it as a sentence. So he asked where I live, not using the do, does, the auxiliary verb of the question. Okay, remember that. Then the final example is an imperative sentence. Close the door, she said. We can say she told or ordered me to close the door. Here we need to use to close the door, to make it infinitive. Exceptions, there are a lot of exceptions, obviously, and we're gonna look at them on the next slide. So some situations don't follow the standard shifts, as you know, with the English language. So universal truths keep their tense, like in this example. She said water boils at 100 degrees. This is always true, right? You cannot say water boiled at 100 degrees. No, if I want to say that something is true, is a fact, I use the same tense when I report it, right? So I would say, she said that water boils at 100 degrees, not boiled, okay? So the same tense. Reporting very recent speech. If the reporting verb is in the present or the speech was just said, tense changes may not apply. So, for example, he says, I am tired. In direct speech, he says that he's tired. Present tense retained. Why? Because it is still happening, it's still going on. Okay, for the third exception is modals that don't change. Some modal verbs stay the same. For example, could, would, should, might, ought to, if you want to report them, that is. So here we have an example. I could help you, she said. In direct speech, you would say, she said that she could help, or she could help him or her, whatever. So as you can see, we keep the same modal verb. We don't change it. Questions starting with did or do. These require auxiliary verbs, removal, and tense adjustment. So for example, do you like pizza? So here in indirect speech, he asked if I liked pizza. Not do in indirect speech, okay? Because like I said, it's one tense back, and like I mentioned before, we do not use a question in indirect speech. No, we just make it into a sentence. No question in reported speech. For the next exception, we have imperatives with let's. Let's becomes suggested or proposed plus that we. For example, let's go to the beach. She suggested, and here is the reported, she suggested that we go to the beach. Okay, we can even say she proposed that we go to the beach. So that's how you report let's. And finally, exclamations and interjections. These are reported using verbs like exclaimed, wished, hoped, sighed. So for example, wow, that's amazing. So reporting that would be, he exclaimed that it was amazing. Okay, don't forget the tense here. It would change from present tense to past tense. So now, over to you. Pause and transform the sentence that I will show you into indirect speech. Write them down. For the first one, I'm learning English. Reported. Pause if you need to. Let's check it. He said he was learning English. If you did well, good for you. Next one. He says she bought a new phone. Pause the video if you need to. He said she had bought a new phone. Okay, so past goes to past perfect. Next one. He will go to the park. Pause the video if you need to. They said they would go to the park. Notice that will goes to would. Okay? They said they would go to the park. She asks, where do you live? Pause the video. Now that you have it ready, let's check it. She asked where I lived. Okay, so here, if you wrote in the present is also acceptable. Okay, she asks where I live is also acceptable. Next one. Close the door. Pause the video if you need to. The teacher ordered, or he or she ordered, or told me to close the door. Great. You have done an excellent job. Good for you. So let's wrap up. And for our final tip, direct and indirect speech help us tell stories and report information naturally. Practice with real dialogue like your favorite movies or real conversation. Okay? Then quiz yourself and ask these 3 questions. Who is speaking? What tense is used? And are there time or place words to change? Very, very important. A big shout out to Genially. Genially is the all-in-one platform for creating interactive, multimedia-rich content that captivates any audience. Whether you are an educator designing game-based learning activities like myself, a marketer building eye-catching infographics, or a presenter looking for dynamic slides, Genially empowers you to choose from 100 of professionally designed templates, embed videos, animations, quizzes and branching scenarios, collaborate in real time with your team, publish anywhere, web, LMS, or directly via shareable link. Start for free and bring your ideas to life in minutes. Level up your presentations, lessons, and campaigns. Experience Genially today. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for watching this lesson on direct and indirect speech. If you found it helpful, like, share, and subscribe to Englishin for more engaging English tips. See you next time, and keep practicing and send your exercises to your teacher or to me, okay? Bye-bye. Take care.